Hello and welcome to World Insight with me, Tian Wei, coming to you live from Beijing on CGTN. Coming up on today's program, our exclusive one-on-one interview with BanKi-moon, the new chair of the Boao Forum, former Secretary General of the United Nations, about the prospects of a summit between the leaders of DPRK and South Korea. And a sit-down talk with former WTO Secretary General Pascal Lamy about China's path to reform and opening up. And a conversation with Li Yan, the coach of China's speed skating team, which brought home the lone gold from the Pyeongchang Olympics. You're watching World Insight. I'm Tian Wei. The DPRK Supreme People's Assembly convened on Wednesday. The Assembly generally gathers once a year to approve the national budget and other matters. The meeting comes just a few weeks ahead of the first summit between DPRK leader Kim Jong-un and South Korean President Moon Jae-in on April the 27th, and 2 weeks after the DPRK leader paid an unofficial visit to China. At this critical moment, I spoke earlier this week at the Boao Forum to former UN Secretary General BanKi-moon, who used to be also a South Korean diplomat, on the prospect of long-term peace and stability on the Korean Peninsula. What is your assessment of all the latest developments and the tangles between countries and among countries? Mr. Chairman.
We have a long-standing, very worrisome situation still persisting in Asia, particularly surrounding Korean Peninsula. With the forthcoming South-North Summit meeting and also U.S.-North Korean Summit meeting in May, we sincerely hope that this will really create much more favorable atmosphere in this part of the world, particularly surrounding Korean Peninsula. This will help promote socio-economic prosperity and development.
Do you think at this point sanctions should be discussed against the DPRK, and meanwhile the military exercises should be discussed between the U.S. and South Korea? And at the same time, should there be a timetable for the denuclearization be discussed between North Korea and some of the other players, as you said, of the previous six-party talks? These are very specific issues.
Is in fact separate issues. The sanction itself on North Korea was not to punish North Korea. It is a strong will of international community to show that the members of the United Nations should behave and properly conduct their way of life in international affairs. Those sanctions were imposed because of North Korea's violation by testing nuclear weapons 6 times since 2006, and numerous launches of ballistic missiles, including intercontinental ballistic missiles. And therefore, it may not be fair to just put together in the same track as a way of bargaining chips. What is important at this time, the North Korean nuclear weapons and its development programs must be dismantled in a complete and verifiable and irreversible way. What we term it as a CVID, complete, verifiable, irreversible dismantlement. This is a very important issue. It's not only an issue of North Korea to China or South Korea. It's a global issue for global peace and security. In this regard, I'd like to really express my sincere appreciation to President Xi Jinping, who has invited Chairman Kim Jong-un of North Korea, where North Korean leader has for the first time expressed his readiness or willingness to denuclearize the Korean Peninsula. I sincerely hope that it is a genuine commitment which will be discussed and agreed upon by South Korean talks with the South Korean leaders and with the U.S. President.
Having said that, though, let me ask you about the next step. What to you is a successful North-South summit? What are the barometers you, as the chairman of the Boao Forum, as an informed citizen, and as a former Secretary General, that you think is termed as successful?
It's very important that the South-North summit scheduled for on April 27 must be a great success. This is going to be the third one since 2000 and 2007. This is a very important, critically important timing. I know that there are many assessments then why North Korea at this time is coming out to agree to a summit meeting. I think that concerted pressures through sanctions imposed by Security Council of the United Nations might have just made them no other choice but to come out. Since there have been many such cases when international community have been, deceived by North Korean behaviors, then I sincerely hope that this time we'll be able to have some test the genuine nature, the genuine intention of North Korea. Yeah.
BanKi-moon, the former Secretary General of the United Nations from 2007 to 2016, is currently the chairman of the Boao Forum for Asia. He has been elected anew into the position. He was named also earlier as one of the top 100 global thinkers for his achievements and the key role he played on global affairs. Let's listen to his goals and visions for the Boao Forum for Asia for the future. Tell me about your vision for Boao Forum from now on.
I'm honored to be elected as chairman of Boao Forum for Asia. I believe that the Asia and whole world are now changing rapidly. I hope we are moving ahead toward a better course, a better direction. But it is also true that there are many regional conflict issues, still poverty issues, and economic prosperity, economic benefits are not evenly, fairly distributed. In that regard, my chairmanship assumption at this critical time has a lot of meanings and implications. I feel a sense of heavy responsibility because Asia has been taking a greater leadership, particularly with the Chinese economic growth, and China is taking greater leadership role in the world. Now, with the 40 years of reform and opening up of China, now I believe that China is also entering into a new era.
But at the same time, we also know that there is a debate about so-called incumbent power, rising power issue. How do you, as chairman of Boao Forum, try to balance this region with the rest of the world in the agenda, in the discussion, and also in your activities?
What is important at this time is that connectivity and mutual cooperation and partnership is much, much more important than domination by certain country over another, or seeking some other way of some undesirable partnerships. I was very much struck and inspired by President Xi Jinping's statement when he really made such a very visionary statement for the broader partnerships. For example, he said that China is going to broaden and widen their contributions to the international community by broadening the market access. He is committed to create some attractive environmental atmosphere for China. Is a manifestation and demonstration of self-confidence as well as a strong commitment to work together with the world at large.
I agree with you, Mr. Secretary General or Mr. Chairman, that China and the Asian countries should go ahead with this right road of development. But on the other hand, you have to look around. You have to respond. So how to make that balance work?
Now, as I am going to be chairman of this, in this very favorable atmosphere, let us see then how this Boao Forum can contribute to the economic and social integration process of not only Asia, but beyond Asia. In that regard, China has also announced a very good initiative like Belt and Road Initiative, and they have already established many years ago Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank. Those can be worked and used as two important mechanisms to realize his vision.
You talked about connectivity earlier, Mr. Chairman. How is that connectivity likely to be implemented and further developed with the platforms such as Boao?
Now, China, as one of the still developing countries, but has been taking very important initiatives, reaching out to many developing countries, particularly Africa and other Southeast Asian countries. This is a very important one, to connect China with the outside world through economic and technical cooperation process. You have already been approaching to many countries. In this world, with the transformative development of technology and transformation, the communications, then this world has become effectively one small planet Earth. The national boundaries are not much important at this time. We are just one family members in this the small planet Earth. That is why what China is now doing is very much welcome in increasing connectivity among people. Yeah.
Boao Forum has a focus on Asia, but many have been saying, it has not been long that Asian countries have been coming together. How to come together and be able to complement one another and have bigger strength and presence of the world. I think that is a big issue. Mr. Chairman, your thought?
The Boao Forum was established basically to promote the regional economic and social integration in Asia and for Asia. So we are not basically discussing any security-related issues. But as I said earlier, without ensuring the peace and security in this region, then it will be very difficult to expect that there will be smooth and harmonious regional cooperation. That is the basic problem, as well as some points the Boao Forum should continue to promote. As newly elected the chairman of Boao Forum, I'll do my best utilizing my network as well as vision and experience as Secretary General of the United Nations. Therefore, I am much hopeful. While globally speaking, we still have so many problems, and Asia can really show example through Boao Forum. Yeah.
But Asia's voice is not as strong as the other continents. For example, Europe, for example, North America, even though Asia's economic strength has really reached quite a height. So, Mr. Chairman, what about that?
Many scholars have already predicted at the beginning of the 21st century that 21st century will be led by Asia. I believe that prediction, and it is now happening. Now, I think one good example is that like China. China has become the second largest economy in the world. Asia itself accounts for 40% of international growth as well as economic power. Therefore, we should have, I think, a brighter future when Asia really can play a very crucially important role, raising their voices in international political and economic and social and technological and cultural areas.
Mr. Chairman, what a pleasure to see you today. Thank you so much out of your very tight schedule in Boao.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Mr. Chairman, thank you. Really appreciate it. Congratulations to the former UN Secretary General BanKi-moon to be elected as the new chairman of the Boao Forum.